Chapter 7. Implementing Strategies, Management and Operations Issues. Strategy Implementation. Successful strategy formulation does not guarantee successful strategy implementation. Strategy implementation is more difficult than strategy formulation going to do. Formulation is different than implementation. Nature of strategy implementation. Strategy formulation. Positioning force before action focuses on effectiveness and intellectual process, requires good intuitive and analytical skills, requires coordination among a few individuals. Strategy implementation, managing forces during action, focuses on effectiveness. An operational process requires special motivation and leadership skills, requires coordination among many individuals. Management issues central to strategy implementation. Establish annual objectives, devise policies, allocate resources, alter existing organizational structure, restructure and re-engineer, revise reward and incentive plans, minimize resistance to change, match managers to strategy, develop a strategy-supportive culture, adapt production operations processes, develop an effective human resources function, downsize and furlough, temporary layoffs as needed, link performance and pay to strategies. Importance of annual objectives, policies, resource allocation, and managing conflict and implementing strategies. Annual objectives. Annual objectives are important in strategy implementation because they represent the basis for allocating resources, primary mechanism for evaluating managers, major instrument for monitoring progress toward achieving long-term objectives, establish organizational, divisional, and departmental priorities. Purpose of annual objectives. Serve as guidelines for action, directing and channeling efforts and activities of organization members. Source of legitimacy in an enterprise by justifying activities to stakeholders. Serve as standards of performance. Serve as an important source of employee motivation and identification. Give incentives for managers and employees to perform. Provide a basis for organizational design. Policies. Changes in a firm's strategic direction do not occur automatically. On a day-to-day basis, policies are needed to make a strategy work. Broadly defined, policy refers to specific guidelines, methods, procedures, rules, forms, and administrative practices established to support and encourage work toward stated goals. Policies let both employees and managers know what is expected of them, thereby increasing the likelihood that strategies will be implemented successfully. Resource allocation. Resource allocation is a central management activity that allows for strategy execution. In organizations that do not use a strategic management approach to decision-making, resource allocation is often based on political or personal factors. Strategic management enables resources to be allocated according to priorities established by annual objectives. 4 types of resources: financial resources, physical resources, human resources, technological resources. Here are some important management trade-off decisions required in strategy implementation. To emphasize short-term profits or long-term growth, to emphasize profit margin or market value, to emphasize market development or market penetration, to lay off or furlough, to seek growth or stability, to take high risk or low risk, to be more socially responsible or more profitable, to outsource jobs or pay more to keep jobs at home, to acquire externally or to build internally, to restructure or re-engineer, to use leverage or equity to raise funds, to use part-time or full-time employees. Why? Sometime we need to ask ourselves why organizational structure is important in strategy implementation. Here is the Chandler's strategy-structure relationship. New strategy formulated, new administrative problem emerge, organizational performance declines, a new organizational structure is established. Organizational performance improves, and the step cycle until it reached the objective. Matching structure with strategy. Changes in strategy often require changes in the way an organization is structured for 2 major reasons. Structure largely dictates how objectives and policies will be established. For example, objectives and policies established under a geographic organizational structure are couched in geographic terms. Objectives and policies are stated largely in terms of products in an organization whose structure is based on product groups. The structural formula for developing objectives and policies can significantly impact all other strategy implementation issues. Structure dictates how resources will be allocated. Changes in strategy lead to changes in organizational structure. Structure should be designed to facilitate the strategic pursuit of a firm and therefore follow strategy. There is not just one optimal organizational design or structure for a given strategy or type of organization. Symptoms of an ineffective organizational structure include too many levels of management, too many meetings attended by too many people, too much attention being directed towards solving interdepartmental conflicts, too large a span of control, too many unachieved objectives, declining corporate or business performance, and finally losing ground to rival firms. Basic forms of structure: functional structure, divisional structure, strategic business unit structure (SBU), matrix structure. Functional organizational structure. The most widely used structure is the functional or centralized type, because this structure is the simplest and least expensive of the 7 alternatives. Group tasks and activities by business function. Here are the advantages and disadvantages of functional organizational structure. Advantages: simple and inexpensive, promotes specialization of labor, encourages efficiency, minimizes the need for an elaborate control system, allows for rapid decision-making. Disadvantages: forces accountability to the top, minimizes career development opportunities, low employee morale, line staff conflicts, delegation of authority and responsibility not encouraged, inadequate planning for products and markets, leads to short-term narrow thinking, leads to communication problem. Divisional organizational structure. It can be organized in one of 4 ways: by geographic area, by product or service, by customer, by process. Functional activities are performed both centrally and in each separate division. A divisional structure by geographic area is appropriate for organizations whose strategies need to be tailored to fit the particular needs and characteristics of customers in different geographic areas. A division structure by product is most effective for implementing strategies when specific products or services need special emphasis. A divisional structure by customer can be the most effective way to implement strategies when a few major customers are of paramount importance and many different services are provided to these customers. A division structure by process is similar to a functional structure because activities are organized according to the way work is actually performed. Strategic business unit structure, SBU, groups similar divisions into strategic business units and delegate authority and responsibility for each unit to a senior executive who reports directly to the chief executive officer. Here are the advantages of strategic business unit structure. Advantages: can facilitate strategy implementation by improving coordination between similar divisions and channeling accountability to distinct business units. Makes the tasks of planning and control by the corporate office more manageable. Disadvantages: it requires an additional layer of management, which increases salary expenses. The role of the group vice president is often ambiguous. Matrix structure. The most complex of all designs, because it depends upon both vertical and horizontal flows of authority and communication. It can result in higher overhead because it creates more managerial positions. It also creates dual lines of budget authority, dual sources of reward and punishment, shared authority, and dual reporting channels. Advantages: project objectives are clear. There are many channels of communication. Workers can see visible results of work. Projects can be shut down easily. Facilitates the use of specialized personnel, equipment, and facilities. What is the difference between restructuring and re-engineering? Restructuring. Restructure, also called downsizing, right-sizing, delayering, involves reducing the size of the firm in terms of number of employees, divisions or units, and hierarchical levels in the firm's organizational structure. Firms often employ restructuring when various ratios appear out of line with competitors, as determined through benchmarking exercises. Benefit equal to cost reduction. Downside: reduced employee commitment, creativity, and innovation that accompanies the uncertainty and trauma associated with pending and actual employee layoffs. Many people today do not aspire to become managers, and many present-day managers are trying to get off the management track. Re-engineering. Re-engineering. Concern more with employee and customer well-being than with shareholder well-being, also called process management, process innovation, process redesign, involves reconfiguring or redesigning work, jobs, and processes for the purpose of improving cost, quality, service, and speed. Characterized by many tactical decisions, whereas restructuring is characterized by strategic decisions. In re-engineering, a firm uses information technology to break down functional barriers and create a work system based on business processes, products, or outputs, rather than on functions or inputs. Benefit Equal to offers employees the opportunity to see more clearly how their particular jobs affect the final product or service being marketed by the firm. How a firm can effectively link performance and pay to strategies. Linking performance and pay to strategies. Companies instituting policies to allow their shareholders to vote on executive compensation policies. Profit sharing is another widely used form of incentive compensation. Gain sharing requires employees or departments to establish performance targets. If actual results exceed objectives, all members get bonuses. Criteria such as sales, profit, production efficiency, quality, and safety could also serve as basis for an effective bonus system. Dual bonus system, a combination of reward strategy incentives, such as salary raises, stock options, fringe benefits, promotions, praise, recognition, criticism, fear, increased job autonomy, and awards, can be used to encourage managers and employees to push hard for successful strategic implementation. Managing conflict and resistance to change for successful strategy implementation. Managing conflict. Interdependency of objectives and competition for limited resources often leads to conflict. Establishing objectives can lead to conflict because managers and strategists must make trade-offs, can energize opposing groups to action. Conflict can be defined as a disagreement between two or more parties on one or more issues. Conflict is unavoidable in organizations and is not always bad. An absence of conflict can signal indifference and apathy. May help managers identify problems. Approaches for managing and resolving conflict. Avoidance includes such actions as ignoring the problem in hopes that the conflict will resolve itself or physically separating the conflicting individuals or groups. Diffusion include playing down differences between conflicting parties while accentuating similarities and common interests. Compromising so that there is neither a clear winner nor loser, resorting to majority rule. Appealing to a higher authority, or redesigning present positions. Confrontation is exemplified by exchanging members of conflicting parties so that each can gain an appreciation of the other's point of view. Or holding a meeting at which conflicting parties present their views and work through their differences. Resistance to change can be considered the single greatest threat to successful strategy implementation. It may take on such forms as sabotaging production machines, absenteeism, filing unfounded grievances, and an unwillingness to cooperate. Can emerge at any stage or level of the strategy implementation process. 3 commonly used strategies for implementing change. Force change strategy involves giving orders and enforcing those orders. Educative change strategy presents information to people. Rational or self-interest change strategy attempts to convince individuals that the change is to their personal advantage. How to modify an organizational culture to support new strategies. Creating a strategy supportive culture. Strategists should strive to preserve, emphasize, and build on aspects of an existing culture that support proposed new strategies. Techniques to alter an organization's culture. Recruitment, training, transfer, promotion, restructuring, re-engineering, role modeling, positive reinforcement, mentoring, revising vision and/or mission, redesigning physical spaces, facades, altering reward system, altering organizational policies, procedures, practices. Elements useful in linking culture to strategy. Shine, 1983. Formal statements of organizational philosophy. Design of physical spaces. Deliberate role modeling, teaching, and coaching. Explicit reward and status system. Stories, legends, myths, and parables. What leaders pay attention to, measure, and control. Leader reactions to critical incidents and crises. Organizational design and structure. organizational systems and procedures, criteria for recruitment, selection, promotion, leveling off, retirement, and excommunication of people. Concerns in implementing strategies. Operations. Human resource. Operations concerns when implementing strategies. Size, location or geographical location. Inventory, inventory control, quality control, cost control. Use of standards, job specialization, employee training, equipment, resource utilization, logistics, technological innovation. All of this point can have a dramatic impact on the success or failure of strategy implementation efforts. Human resource concerns when implementing strategies. Furloughs, temporary layoffs, assessing staffing needs and costs, for example, healthcare and insurance plan, developing performance incentives, employee stock ownership plans, shares, ESOP, work-life balance issues, corporate wellness programs, matching managers with strategy, glass ceiling. Thank you for all of your attention.